How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. We're going to get into these books right now, but before we jump into that, I want to remind you that the Comic Book Community Awards nominations are open right now, so please consider this show right here for Best Ongoing Series and Best Comic Book Review Channel. I would really appreciate it. Links will be down below in the description to access that nomination and voting website. So check out the Comic Book Community Awards and spread the word too. Nominate your other favorite channels as well. So let's get into these books right now. I'm going to go ahead and put my grading scale up. As you know, what I'm going to do is when I introduce a book, I'm going to put the cover of that book on the grading scale so you can see how they all stack up against each other. Let's get into the big two as we always do, starting with Superman Lost issue number 3 from Christopher Priest. Now, not your typical Superman book. We have our Clark Kent Superman lost in space right now, and we understand like how he got there and things like that from the previous issues, from issue 1 especially. But now he's kind of floating around. He's very far away from Earth right now, and he's meeting some alien races, interacting with them, learning about their struggles, how maybe insignificant he really is, and how dependent he is on these other beings, these other forces in the universe to get him back where he needs to go. It's kind of like a little spaghetti western right here in a way, because he's actually resolving some issues that some alien life forms have. He's interacting with maybe not so much deep cut space dolphins in this issue. So it's pretty cool, but I mean, it is a little bit dialogue heavy. It's a little bit physics calculation kind of heavy, and it's got some really weird interactions with some planets and things like that in here. So I mean, like, it's going to be a book that might not resonate with everybody, but if you like a little slower pace, not your run-of-the-mill typical Superman story, this might be something you'd be interested in. It's a little bit slower paced. We're kind of retelling the story a little bit about what happened, because we read issue number 1. We know Superman makes it home, but this is the adventure. This is how he was lost and how he got back to Lois. So Superman Lost issue number 3, still an intriguing book. This issue was a little bit weird though. What'd you guys think? Then we also read Batman White Knight Presents Generation Joker. That's a long ass title, from the Sean Murphy Batman universe that he's been putting together, the White Knight universe. Now, I jumped into this one because it was another number 1 and I wanted to see what was going on. We have like Old Lady Harley, I suppose, on the cover here. And I jumped in and I was completely lost. So if you're not paying attention to the Sean Murphy White Knight universe, I wouldn't recommend jumping into this book unless you just want to dive in head first and see what's going on. But we follow the Joker and Harley's kids right now. They have an estranged father, the Joker, who they find a clever way to interact with against mom's wishes. You know, there's some like old man Bruce involved, things like that. And they go on a little trip down memory lane, Joker and the kids, in a way, about like, this is where me and your mother met and things like that. So, I mean, the art's really cool in here, but like, again, like I said, if you're not reading the Sean Murphy stuff, the White Knight Presents stuff, you're going to be completely lost into this. So it's not a really good place to jump in, but I mean, it was intriguing, I guess. I'm not probably going to read the rest of them, but temperature check, new number 1, why not? What'd you guys think? Speaking of a new number 1 from DC, we have Green Lantern Dawn of DC issue number 1. We have Hal Jordan back in the mix right now, also featuring John Stewart Homecoming Part 1 in the back of this book too. So depending on which character you like more, you have a little bit from both of them here. And you know, I will say that this book had a lot of humor in it. It's very reminiscent of like Peacemaker from the other week, but you know, maybe not that much. But I will say it's pretty much a complete ripoff of the latest Top Gun movie in the way that it's executed, with Hal being like a pilot and wanting to prove himself and being older than the average person flying around nowadays. He's got a lot to prove. A lot of people are mad at him right now. A lot of people are happy that he's back on Earth, things like that. But, you know, we'll see where the story goes from here. So if you're a big Green Lantern fan, I think you're going to enjoy this book. If you're an average, like run-of-the-mill, you know who Green Lantern is, maybe not his history, things like that, I think you're going to really enjoy this book as well, because, again, it's really humorous, and maybe it's a little bit too close to Top Gun. But it was intriguing. I'm interested in issue number 2. Let me know if you guys read it and what you thought. Issue number 11 of Daredevil from Chip Zdarsky. I was wondering where he was going to take this story after he basically destroyed the island that Daredevil spent all this time recruiting people for and building his temples on and things like that. The Fist, the whole legacy of the Fist didn't really turn out according to plan. We have Elektra locked up right now. A lot of the people that he teamed up with are locked up, but this one right here catches us back up to where Cole is, the former detective, and Matt Murdock. Apparently he's been brooding around living with Cole for a while, and he's had enough of his crap, kicking him out, trying to jumpstart his I don't know, his drive, his ambition again as Daredevil. And so Daredevil comes up with kind of a last resort idea, confronting the Stormwinds in this issue here in a pretty dramatic way. You know, cool artwork, as always. Interesting story. I don't quite know what to believe just yet, but we're going to continue reading it because it's Zdarsky, because it's Daredevil, and we're going to see what happens in the next story arc here. It says plus story guest starring Iron Fist in here as well. So if you've been waiting for the new Iron Fist, seeing a little collaboration between Iron Fist and Daredevil, you get a little backstory in here too, which is, it's okay. I'm not a huge Iron Fist fan, even less so of the newest Iron Fist. So yeah, you get a little bit of that in the back of here as well. Pretty dramatic, crazy stuff happens in this issue, but like, I just want to get a vibe of where the actual next arc is going to take us. And we don't quite get it in here, but obviously it's going to unfold in the later issues. What'd you guys think? All right, we have Don't Spit in the Wind, issue number 2, Mad Cave Studios. I got issue number 1 just because of the art alone. I like the complexity of the art, right? It's really gritty. It reminds me of like a Jeff Darrow kind of a style. And so I wanted to get it just to see if it was going to be a story that was really compelling with really cool art as well, or if this was going to be like a one-trick pony kind of a thing. And to be honest, the story is lacking a little bit here and there. We essentially have these garbage collectors that are back down on Earth. They're supplying some kind of a service down there, maybe to power. I can't even remember the logic there. This gigantic spaceship where everyone has migrated to because the Earth is essentially useless. And there's a lot of threats down there on Earth that these garbage collectors or recyclers have to deal with. And we're focusing on a couple main characters right there and the troubles that they have down on Earth. So visually, I'd say it's a pretty interesting book. Story is a little bit lacking right now, so it needs to catch up on the story side. But it's not a bad read. It's just something that I'm not super excited to look forward to. You know, I'm not super excited to like see where the story takes us just yet because it hasn't been like a really compelling hook towards the end, but it's a book I'll probably still keep reading just to kind of see that progression over time. But let me know if you guys read Don't Spit in the Wind, number 2. From Ahoy Comics, we have Second Coming Trinity issue number 2. This is a subsequent volume. This isn't volume 1. Rock and Robbie recommended reading volume number 1. I need to go back and get that one. But this is Trinity number 2 right here from Mark Russell, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite writers of all time. He's got some amazing books out there right now. This book has so many layers and is hilarious. There's a lot of straight parts in it as well, which is also funny at the same time as you read this. It's a very interesting scenario. We basically have a Superman type character right here who's used to saving the day. Everybody knows him, things like that. We have the Superman character has a child who's actually being babysat by Jesus, like the actual Jesus. And we also have God walking around too, kind of marveling, or maybe not marveling at his creations and what his creations have been up to. He actually gets to be front and center inside of this issue. We hear a lot of the conversations from God himself, talking to a bunch of atheists, talking about, you know, reasons why he created life to begin with, and maybe some of the areas that he was paying more attention to, some of the areas that he wished would have been more entertaining, looking back on this. But I think it's a really interesting book with so many funny, hilarious, just concepts and layers to it. It's actually awesome. I love this one so much. I can't wait to get the other volumes of this one to get caught back up to how we got here. But if you haven't read the other ones like me, you will not be completely lost. Just take everything at face value, and I think you're going to be just fine with that. So Second Coming Trinity, highly recommended. It was so fun to read, and it's just so funny as well. Just check it out. All right, Mark Millar and Jorge Remendez on Nemesis Reloaded. We have issue number 5, the completion of this arc here. Crazy, action-packed roller coaster. You never wanted to root for a villain any more than you rooted for this guy in here. His charisma, his style, his methodology, his planning, his combat ability, things like that. You absolutely just fall in love with this crazy-ass character right here as he takes on the entire city, the entire police department, and as a backstory, which is woven into this, he takes on some other pretty powerful assassin-like people as well. So we get the conclusion of him taking over the city. There's really good reasons for him to want to do this and to act on this revenge mission that he's on right now. So we get to unpack all of that stuff too. And interestingly enough, we're actually building out a broader universe at the end of this book, bringing on some other characters too, which you know are probably the best of the best as well. And he's been basically invited into this group of assassins. And so we're actually going to build out this universe, which I cannot wait for in other issues. So check this one out. It was a hell of a time. Great run. Then we have Phantom Road issue number 3 from Jeff Lemire. I'm not digging this book as much as other people are. I think I enjoy it. It's something intriguing. It's a mystery. There's a supernatural component to it. There's some good dialogue and some interesting characters, but like, I just need a little bit more supernatural. Maybe it just hasn't given me enough. Maybe I haven't given enough time to really unfold and unpack all the little secrets and details about this universe. But like, I'm not too interested in what's going on right now. We basically have this like weird zombie appearance or something like that of these different characters. We have a main hero who's like a truck driver who is wrapped up into this ladies issue as well, because her and her husband came across this body or object, and now they're smuggling that object from place to place, and they don't quite understand what's going on. And we have like this upside down world that appears every once in a while. It's okay. It reads really well. The writing is buttery smooth, and it's an interesting little detective story, but at the end of the day, I'm just not hooked by the supernatural element of this just yet, and I just don't really care too much about any of the characters so far. We didn't even see the first two characters we were introduced to in this one. We got a couple new characters introduced, but I don't know. Not a whole lot there to hook me with this one. What are you guys thinking about Phantom Road in general? Junkyard Joe issue number 6, the ending of this first arc right here, and we're gonna get some more Junkyard Joe in the future, which I cannot wait for in here. Probably one of the best comics I've read in a very long time, best runs I've read in a very long time. You don't really need to know Geiger or the Geigerverse to get into this, although it gives you a little bit of history on the character, or maybe a little more context about what the character is capable of if you read Geiger, which came out, like 2 years ago at this point. But you can get caught up on that one pretty quick, and you really don't need to get into this. But the level of emotion and heart and just plain fun in this book is just incredible. I loved everything about this one. They introduced some new characters in here, obviously, with the new family. You instantly fall in love with them and you like sympathize for their situation, which I think is pretty compelling as well. The art is incredible in here too. He actually found a way to like make a robot emote, and they use a little bit of lettering for that too, which I thought was a pretty smart choice. There's a lot of cool, just great action in here. It was the perfect pace. It was the perfect length. You know what I mean? Like if this was a 4-issue run, there wouldn't be enough time. If it was 8 issues, it'd be a little bit too much. They found the perfect way to tell this story right here. And if you want more, which we know we're going to get more in the Geiger verse, there's actually some clues about where the story is going to go in the near future. So super excited about that. There's actually some questions in the back here too, which goes over like, what happened in the last panel? Who was that? Are we going to see him again? You know we will, kind of stuff, which I thought was pretty interesting. And if you read the Geiger 80-page giant that came out maybe a year or two ago, there's a lot of other characters they're going to introduce as well. They're going to build this universe. It's going to be something really interesting, I think. You got to check out Junkyard Joe, one of the best 6-issue runs I've ever read. All right, Kelly Thompson on Black Cloak issue number 5. First off, the stylization of this book, the cover, the back cover, the art, the coloring, all that stuff, the compositions in the book, awesome. Just A's all the way across the board on all those things. If you want a sci-fi, like a fantasy, sci-fi, murder mystery, whodunit, running from the law kind of a book, this book is right up your alley. Very, very clean writing as well. Like you're never lost about what people are saying, or the dialogue between two people is not muddy at all. I would say the overall story can get a little muddy just because it's that sci-fi fantasy world where there's a lot of factions with interesting, weird names that you've never heard of. So sometimes it's hard to keep track of like the relationships between people, and this group doesn't like this group, but they're named weird things, and you forget about that halfway through the story, and maybe that was something you were supposed to glean from the past that we were told. Anyway, what I'm getting at is it's a complex sci-fi fantasy murder mystery detective story. So if that's your game, you got to be checking this one out. And again, buttery smooth dialogue. The interior artwork is very, very nice as well. So if that sounds like something right up your alley, definitely check this one out. Even if it's not, maybe give the first 2 issues a go and just see what you think. Mark Millar on the Ambassadors issue number 4. Another brilliant issue of the Ambassadors. I'm loving all these different character spotlights they have in here. So in the first issue, we get to understand basically the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory situation we're in, where this one company, this one woman, actually created the ability to have superpowers. And so she's granting that ability to worthy people across the world from like each continent, right? And so in this one, we're going down into Rio de Janeiro, and we are picking someone from there. There's some initial thoughts about who might get it, but there's a cool twist at the end which actually reveals who gets the powers, and it's a really compelling story, and I like it a lot. For those that might be confused about why this person was given the powers, there's little threads here and there which builds the case for that. So just pay attention to the writing, to how the characters are acting, to the dialogue specifically, and it should wrap it up. It should clear that up pretty easily. But this book is turning into something really special. I like the team that they're putting together, and it touched base again a little bit more than the previous issues on who the antagonists are going to be in this overall run, which has got me really excited. So The Ambassador is definitely a book to check out if you're like superhero books with a little bit more of a grounded approach, maybe, to it. It's an awesome book. Check it out. All right, we're going to jump over to Saga from Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan. I like how Fiona Staples, I pointed this out before, but Fiona Staples' name is actually first, and then Brian K. Vaughan on the Saga issues. That switched about 10 issues ago, if I remember correctly, which I think is a really cool shout out to just like how awesome the artwork is in this series. Number 64, though, from Image Comics. I've been loving this run so far. This new arc that we're on right now, this is kind of like the second half of this next wave of arcs that are coming up. So I'm really digging this. We have Hazel and we have our Prince robot guy trying to break into this place that has this certain ingredient needed to create this very powerful elixir that they were told to get, right? They were like, hey, I'll do this for you if you can steal me the ingredients. Now go on your way. And we have Prince Robot showing some true colors inside of this issue, showing a progression, maybe a violent tendency that he's going to have. And we've gotten lots of hints of this in the other issues of Saga. And so, you know, kind of like father, like son in this instance here. So that's a really cool thing to see evolve and to see his attitude and things like that and his protectiveness for Hazel in this book is really quite charming in here. Then we have Elena as well, trying to do what she can do to, you know, put food on the table. Can she take advantage of certain situations? Can she get a job? All that kind of stuff. We explore that in here as well. So in classic Saga fashion, there's just like a writing style, something about this. I talked about dialogue being buttery smooth. The storytelling in Saga is that way as well. Everything flows so naturally. There's always people on their tail. There's always this sense of like, you gotta keep moving, or else you're gonna get caught in this run right here. And you feel so much for the family because we've been through a lot together in 60-something issues. It's just an amazing book. It's really, truly an amazing book. I had my doubts when it came back around issue, what was it? 53, something like that. I was like, it doesn't feel like the Saga I know, but then I was quickly reminded through different moments through the next few issues. I'm like, no, we're exactly where we need to be in this run. And I'm so excited every time this book comes out. You got to check it out. Pick up the trades. We're about halfway through this entire run, this entire saga so far. Pick up the trades, you'll read them super quick, you'll be caught up, and you'll be in good shape. Rodney Barnes on Monarch issue number 4, another great issue of Monarch here. We had a lot of explanation over the last couple of issues about who our main character actually is, this boy that's featured on here. We got an understanding of where he is in like the foster system right now, some of the caregivers, the foster mom, and some of the other kids that are in his situation. We learn a little bit about his connection with this alien race and how he got to Earth, and maybe about what his priorities are now that he's on Earth. You know, does he have a very sympathetic human heart right now? And so we get to explore that a little bit as well. The aliens did attack and wiped out a lot of the infrastructure. We have some of his friends and family still in the school grounds, having to deal with this B plot right now, where this like Columbine type kid is actually trapping some kids in there and threatening their life. And so it's up to our main protagonist here to come in and save the day and also battle the aliens that have sent him on this essentially Earth-destroying mission to begin with. So a lot of weird threads happening right now. Very cool art. Still very compelling. Monarch is a great series. I'd recommend it. All right, Scott Snyder on Noctera issue number 14. I'm getting a little bit tired of Noctera, to be quite honest with you. I think it should have wrapped up around issue number 12. I think it would have been a great 12-issue run, maybe a 10-issue run even, honestly, with maybe a special here and there to bridge the gap between certain evolutions in our main characters, between Val and between Blacktop Bill. But we're in basically our Eden. I think they call it Eros or something like that. We're in our Eden destination right now. And of course, the one thing that we were betting all of our chips on is not quite going according to plan. They basically had this formula that we were introduced to in the first couple of issues of this entire run so long ago. They have this formula that's going to bring this light back to earth and kind of revert all this darkness, the big PM that we've been walked through for the past 12 issues. And so, of course, things don't go exactly according to plan. They get introduced to these beings that live in this area. They're trying to explain to them that it's basically this give and take situation where, you know, if you increase the brightness, you increase the darkness, some kind of crap like that. I don't know. Scott Snyder's storytelling in here is very, very similar to Dark Space's Wildfire, where he likes to focus on a particular like narrative or word or concept that also relates to the overall story that they're telling in that single issue. If you remember in Dark Space's Wildfire, he talked about the different stages of a wildfire. There's like the ignition, and then there's the whatever, and then there's the whatever, and there's all this dialogue about how it impacts or how it can impact the situation, which then is supposed to relate to the story they're telling right here. He's doing the exact same thing inside of this book, so there's something extremely familiar with the storytelling between this and Dark Space's Wildfire, but then again, a lot of his books are like that. So if you can get past that part, I think this would have been a great 12-issue run, but it's going to be 16. Only 2 more issues to go, and we'll see how the story wraps up. What'd you guys think of it so far? All right, last book we're going to cover tonight is Simon Kudranski's Something Epic, issue number 1 from Image Comics. Now, I'm going to call this one the sleeper hit of the week because I don't remember this one on FOC. I did not buy it initially on Wednesday, and then I heard so many people saying, wow, you didn't pick that one up? That's crazy. And so I went back to the shop, looked at it, got it, and man, this is a hell of a book. I'm loving this one. You might recognize his name from Town Called Terror, which came out last year at some point. It was like a 6-issue series about a guy going back home, and home is hell, essentially, and dad's the devil, and he has to basically kill dad and rise up against his tyranny. This book here is a combination of a lot of cool, interesting concepts. I don't want to give too much away because it was like, as I was exploring this book, each time I turned the page, I was like, wow, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea too. So things build up. So basically what I'm going to say is it features a little boy who has this power, has this sense that he has maintained since childhood. And it has to do with like imagination in the beginning. He's talking about how a lot of kids are born with a highly active imagination, and as you grow up, that fades away. He went a little bit different route. His imagination kind of went a little bit beyond what is average, but he's actually realizing that maybe it's not his imagination. Maybe he's actually seeing real things that other people can't see. It's almost like a Sixth Sense situation where, hey, he's been dead the whole time kind of a thing, right? But he can see dead people. So it's a very interesting book. I'm loving this one a lot. It's got like Sixth Sense mixed with 8 Billion Genies, mixed with Ready Player One, a lot of cool stuff, very heavy on the inner dialogue. So if that bothers you, it's going to be a lot of that inside of here. And this book takes a little bit of time to read, again, because there's so much dialogue in here. But I think it's very moody. It's very heavy. You know his art style if you read Town Called Terror. It's got this muddy, dark, but yet beautiful style. And when you see some of the other pictures in here, which I'm not going to show you, there's a lot of opportunity for color, and that's where it really pops. So absolutely beautiful book. I'm loving this book so far. We're only 1 issue in, and it blew me away. Sleeper hit of the week right here. So guys, that's all I got for you this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down below in the comments what you read and what your favorite books of the week were. And as a reminder, go down below in the description. You're going to find a link to the Comic Book Community Awards 2023 nomination and or voting page. Please consider Nick at Nite for best review channel and best ongoing series. I would really appreciate it. But as always, thank you again for watching. Happy reading, and I'll see you all down below in the comments.